It's a beautiful morning here in San Antonio, and yes, basketball is back. We hope you have your coffee ready as we get ready to tip off the annual Silver and Black Open Scrimmage. Hi, everybody, and welcome into the AT&T Center. I'm Kaylee Griffin. So glad that you could join us on Facebook Live this morning. I know a lot of people are very excited for this event, a chance to get a sneak peek at the 2017-2018 San Antonio Spurs. One really cool aspect about this event is that it's completely free for the fans to attend. So we have the true fans here today, and it's really a true sneak peek before the first preseason game on Monday night. Now, before we get things going, I want to give you a quick sneak peek at the rosters for today's game. We have the black team and the silver team. On today's black roster, we have DeJounte Murray, Danny Green, Kyle Anderson, LaMarcus Aldridge, Pau Gasol, Bryn Forbes, London Parentes, Brandon Paul, and Matt Costello. And for the silver team, led by Patty Mills, Mr. Manu Ginobili, Rudy Gay, Davis Bertans, Joffrey Laverne, Derek White, Darren Hilliard, and Amita Brima. And to start off today's broadcast, I have a special guest with me, Mr. Bill Schoening, voice of the San Antonio Spurs for WOAI. How are you doing today?
Very good. Very excited about the start of the new season, Kaylee. It was a long summer, but now we're here ready to go. And I'm hopping on the plane with these guys tomorrow to go to Sacramento for the first preseason game on Monday night. So it's jumping right back into it now.
I can't believe it's already here. It feels like just last week we were wrapping up the Western Conference Finals, and now we're already heading into our first preseason game. You know, some new faces on this squad, some faces that people won't see on the court anymore for this team. Jonathan Simmons now with the Orlando Magic, Dwayne Dedmon with the Atlanta Hawks, and David Lee no longer on the team. But some new faces, and I just want to kind of get your perspective on some of the new guys. I think most notably Rudy Gay. He's coming off that torn Achilles injury, but a true talent who's been probably come in with a little bit of a veteran leadership for this team.
Oh, there's no question about it. He's now in his 12th year out of UConn, well-traveled veteran. The big question is, how's he going to do after the Achilles injury, which ended his season in January? But he says he's worked extremely hard to get back to being in great shape, and I think he's going to really help this team. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Spurs use him, though, because I think it gives him some flexibility because he can play the small forward or the power forward. He can start or come off the bench, and if he comes off the bench, you just mentioned the silver team. You look at Patty, Manu, Rudy, Davis, and Joffrey, that could be your second five. So
absolutely.
I think Pop had and the coaching staff had that maybe in mind to see if that unit kind of sticks together, see how they play together, because as you know, Kaylee, the bench is very, very important for the Spurs.
And it will be interesting to see because Rudy has always been a starter throughout his NBA career, but I did have a chance to sit down with him just about 2 weeks ago, and he said, you know, he's looking to get back into being one of those top 10 players in that small forward position, but he also wants to break the stigma when it comes to injuries. He wants to show that you can come back from an injury like this, a torn Achilles, that people often say you can't come back from, and show that he can be powerful. We're going to throw it down to Tony Parker right now on the court.
On behalf of my teammates and the whole Spurs organization, just want to say thank you for the support. You were great last year, and hopefully we can have a great year. Go as far as we can, you know we'll work hard. So thank you very much.
Tony, of course, an interesting story. We all know about the injury last year that ended his season. He is way ahead of schedule. He is hoping to be back on the court and contributing to the Spurs by late November.
It's pretty incredible. And we talked to some of the guys at Media Day about how hard he's been working in the offseason. They say they're really not surprised because of how Tony works in general, but a lot of the doctors are shocked to see how far ahead of schedule he is.
I think he heard those reports that he might be done, and he doesn't want his career to end this way. So, and plus, he's been with this organization since he was 19 years of age. He takes a lot of pride in being with his teammates. And look at the starting five for the Silver team. We just talked about the second unit for this ball club. I want to call them the global gang because Rudy's the only American out there. Joffrey Laverne from France, Davis Bertans from Latvia, Manu Ginobili from Argentina, and Patty Mills from Australia. This could be a very good second unit. Out of the last 4 seasons, the Spurs bench has been the most productive bench in 3 of those 4 years in the NBA.
And I'm going to want to get your perspective on Joffrey Laverne in just a bit, but it is interesting. I think we do see that the top 5 over here for the Black is probably going to be their starters right now, and this is most likely the starting lineup with Kawhi Leonard. He will not be playing in today's scrimmage, but Kyle Anderson subbing into that starting lineup for them. So this does look like a potential starting lineup for this team.
It does. As you mentioned, Kawhi starting at 3, of course, instead of Kyle, and Kawhi Leonard getting the day off. But I'm really anxious to see how this whole thing's going to come together this season, especially with that second unit. But, Kawhi, all-NBA player, 3rd in the MVP balloting. I think he's primed for another year. And every year, Kawhi adds another layer to his game. I'm anxious to see what he does this season.
And Kawhi, obviously, we know him for his all-around game. People really harp on him on the defensive end. We actually got to hear from some of the players throughout the season on Danny Green and his defensive performance, how important he is to this team on the defensive end. All second team last year for all defense. How important is Danny Green?
Danny's defense is critically important to this ball club. With Kawhi Leonard, really 2 of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA.
And we see LaMarcus Aldridge step out. And that's something that he said yesterday at shoot-around that he's been working on. He wants to take more threes just because that's how the NBA game is going. This center position is kind of fading away, and he has to be more versatile and be able to pull the ball out.
He did much better from the three-point range last year than he did in his first year. We were talking about Joffrey Laverne earlier. He just lost the ball going in. He's going to be a very important member of that second unit. He's got some experience. He's in his 4th year now. He played with OKC in Chicago last year. There's a steal for Davis Bertans. And a little lazy with that lead pass to Rudy. He's going to lead him a little bit more. Rudy's a very athletic player. But back to Joffrey Laverne. A veteran player who played overseas, and you got to have at least 2 French guys, right? You got
Absolutely.
Tony Parker, and Boris left last year, so to get that second French guy, they got Laverne in for this year.
And Joffrey, we talked to him about 2 days ago at practice, and he has quite a bit of experience with some of these guys. Not only Tony, but he played with Davis in Serbia for 2 years, so he said he's excited to get back on the floor. And Manu Ginobili, first two of the game, not surprising. So happy to see him back in the silver and black.
He's developed that floater very nicely, and he used that a lot. A little push shot, that time from about 7 or 8 feet out.
It's kind of funny to say that he developed as he's 40 years old now and he's coming back, but he just keeps seeming to add elements to his game as well.
Absolutely. That's why he's, a guy that's been playing so long. He stays in great shape. He's maintained his health. There's another little floater that time that he missed. But you just see different elements of Manu's game. He's such a smart player. He's going to be like an assistant coach this year, as he has been for the last couple of years on this ball club.
And how do you think Manu's role changes this year, at least maybe in the first 2 months with Tony still kind of getting back in shape and Manu really being that true leader for this team? You
look at guys, they always come over to Manu to ask questions. He is such a willing teammate, such a guy that he brings a lot to the table in terms of his experience. He knows the system so well. Pop relies on him a great deal. So there's really no player on this team, with the exception of Tony, who's going to be out for a while, with the savvy experience and knowledge of the system that Manu's got.
It's interesting because he is so important to pretty much every player on this team. Doesn't matter how long you've been here. We talked to DeJounte at Media Day about what Manu means to this team, and he said that Manu has been so helpful to him as a leader, as a coach in some way, and it doesn't matter what he's doing on the floor. He just has so many elements to his game, whether it's leadership or coaching. He brings so much to this team.
You see, just what you're talking about right there. He drew a double team. He saw Laverne open at the elbow. Nice little bounce pass. He gets an assist on that play, but he really set it up by drawing the double team.
And now Pau Gasol with the ball. He was one of 3 guys on this team that played in Eurobasket this summer. And what a summer for Pau Gasol. Wow. Bronze medal with Spain and became the all-time leading scorer in FIBA, passing Tony Parker. How incredible was that summer for him?
He lost 10 pounds. He's in great shape. They're going to disallow that basket by Davis. Davis shot nearly 40% from three-point range last year. But Pau lost 10 pounds during the offseason. He worked very hard with the Spanish team. That veteran leadership we talked about with Manu, Pau's got the same type of basketball IQ. And his second year in the system, I think he's going to be very effective.
And Davis Bertans, his second season as well with the silver and black, as Danny Green knocks down a three. We like to see that out of him. Looking forward to much more of that this season. But back to Davis, he finally got his chance to play with Lafayette this summer. He's been waiting for that after coming off 2 ACL injuries. Couldn't play last summer because he was joining the Spurs, and he was so excited to be a part of that team. And how about DeJounte Murray there? You know, how much has he added to his game heading into his second season? He's going to play a much bigger role, especially at the start.
Oh, yeah, especially without Tony to start the season. DeJounte, very, very important. He worked very hard this summer, spent some time with Kawhi. If you want to work hard with a guy who works hard, that's Kawhi Leonard. So I think that DeJounte probably learned a lot from him in terms of his work ethic.
Anyone who follows DeJounte Murray on social media sees he's pretty much in the gym every single day. It's pretty incredible, and it's amazing to see the work ethic out of a player who's so young, just turned 21 years old. But that's the kind of player you want in your system, especially when it comes to the point guard.
And he was really thrown into the fire last year in the playoffs against the Rockets when Tony got hurt. And I thought he did very well. I think that he learned an awful lot. He knows the type of level that he's got to get to really help this ball club, and he's working very hard to get there.
I think he's shown a lot of maturity as well. You see finding Pau Gasol right there. But even the way he speaks when he goes into interviews, he knows the role he has to play this season, and it's going to be big for him and big for this team.
I mentioned in Game 6 against Houston last year that DeJounte just kind of grew up right in front of us, and he continues to mature. As you mentioned, the interviews now, he's talking as if he's a leader on this ball club, and of course, it's only his second year, but in that position at the point guard spot, you've got to be a leader.
And he knows that, and I think this year he's aware that, you know, with Tony out at least the first 2 months, he's going to play a pretty significant role on this squad. So I'm excited to see him take the court here. Davis Bertans for three, just a little bit short, but back to Davis this summer. I mean, how great was it to see him have the ability to go back and play for Latvia?
And Latvia had a great tournament there in Eurobasket, of course, led by Porzingis, but they've got some really good young players now in Latvia. Davis was telling me last year that they've got some really good young guys, and they showed it last summer in the tournament. That's 2 for 2 now for Danny Green from three-point range. He really wants to improve that three-point percentage this season.
Yeah, he said that a few times. He's looking to improve, and we know that he has the ability to knock down those big threes, so we can't wait to see him continue to shoot the ball this year. Just a little overhead. Kyle Anderson picks it up. Oh, is he going to take it? And let's see.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, 3 for 3.
You know, when Danny hits his first shot, and I talk about this all the time on the radio, when Danny hits his first shot, it seems like that basket becomes a trash can, and he can't miss. He's 3 for 3 now, and he's the leading scorer in the ballgame. He's got 9 points.
And it's interesting because during our media day interviews, we talked so much about Danny Green's defense, but, man, that guy can shoot the ball as well.
He's very good catch-and-shoot three-pointer. Speaking of three-pointer, you know, Manu Ginobili is the all-time leader in Spurs history in three-pointers made.
And he's not shy about taking a big shot as well. And when it comes, if you look at the guys on the floor right now, if the game's on the line, who do you want the ball? With Kawhi out, whose hands do you want the ball in?
Well, that's the great thing about this ball club. I think that there's a bunch of guys that can take that final shot. And they're not afraid about taking it. Look at that spin move by Joffrey Laverne. I mentioned to Walter Stoops, my statistician, before the game, that I think Joffrey Laverne's going to help this ball club. He's going to take that backup big role that David Lee had, David West the year before. Like I said, he's in his 4th year. He played overseas as well. He's got some experience. He's played in some good programs with the Bulls and the Thunder.
And that's a beautiful take by Rudy Gay, and that's what people want to see. There's still that question mark, of course, still coming off that Achilles injury. He hasn't really taken the court since January, since that injury. But it's great to see him attacking the rim so early on and showing that he still has it.
He's very, very happy to be here. Of course, he's got an opportunity to really contribute in a lot of different ways with this ball club. He took less money to come here, so I think he's very happy to be here, and I think he's going to be very, very important for this ball club.
Yeah, and he just wants to win. That's what it comes down to. He's excited to be with an organization with this incredible winning tradition. And he told me he's really looking forward to taking the floor, and he's ready to take on whatever position he has to.
See some new players now in the ballgame. Bryn Forbes had a marvelous summer.
Oh, my gosh.
And he's not shy about putting the shot up. And he's worked a lot on his ball handling so he can help out at the point guard spot as well as the 2-guard position.
And that's what we see right there out of Bryn Forbes, just really improving his ball handling. As you mentioned, he's only 6 feet tall, so he really has to be able to handle the ball on that, because when it comes to the NBA game, that's not really the 2-guard position.
You talk about a guy who's worked very, very hard to improve. And, of course, he played for a great college coach at Michigan State with Tom Izzo as Laverne steps out. And he's got that kind of range. He missed that one, but Joffrey Laverne can shoot from distance. But Bryn Forbes had such a marvelous summer. You can see the confidence in Bryn Forbes. He's not hesitating at all.
And that was a strong take by LaMarcus Aldridge. Love to see that out of him. Just so much kind of questions when it comes around LaMarcus Aldridge, but he told me that heading into this season, he just wants to get back to the way he played the game in Portland.
That was a good pass, too, by the way, by Matt Costello. And we haven't talked too much about some of the young guys and the two-way rosters that are working for the first time this year. Two players can go on a two-way roster with the Austin Spurs and the San Antonio Spurs. And the Spurs taking full advantage of that, of course, because they are one of the first teams to really use the G League an awful lot. Now, of course, it's the G League. But Darren Hilliard and Matt Costello, two developmental-type players that could also contribute.
And Matt Costello played with Bryn Forbes at Michigan State. He had an impressive career. They made it to the Final Four while in college. And so they have that experience at the college level, playing at the highest level. And Darren Hilliard also played for Villanova. He had a ton of experience. I actually had the chance to cover him while I was working at the Big East, so I'm pretty familiar with his game. And he has played the last 2 years with the Pistons. He had a pretty impressive showing there as well. So it definitely two great additions. There's Bryn Forbes stepping out for the three. You can see not only his ball handling, but his shooting percentage is going up as well.
He's clearly worked very, very hard. And as I mentioned, he's not hesitating at all. He's just firing it away. That was a very solid quarter, I think, for both sides.
I think we saw a lot. And Black is leading Silver 24-19 after the first quarter.
Time to get on your feet.
Spurs fans, Spurs season tickets for the 2017-2018 season are on sale now. Season ticket members receive significant savings off day-of-game pricing, plus special benefits such as unique game night experiences, pre-sale access, and private member events. Become a Spurs family member. Call 210-444-5050 or visit spurs.com/season tickets for more information.
Leading scorer so far, Danny Green. He's got 3 threes for the Black team. He's got 9. And leading the way for the Silver, Joffrey Laverne with 8, running the floor very well and looking comfortable in his first official outing as a Spur.
And how about the atmosphere in here right now? We got the Silver Dancers, Team Energy Coyote. Just an incredible group of people out here today. Of course, we mentioned it's a completely free event. Admission is free, parking free, dollar drinks throughout the arena today. Just a great atmosphere and a chance to really get a sneak peek at this team.
I got here a little bit before 10, which was about an hour and 10 minutes or so before this event started, and the fans were lined up outside.
I was here at about 8:45, and even then it was lined up. So I'm wondering what time these people got here to get the best seats. But it's incredible to see when the doors open up, how these fans just file in. They're literally charging at the floor.
I think they're really hungry for basketball. They really are, and a lot of these fans, they might not be able to afford these kinds of seats they can get for this kind of a game. I mean, this is a real treat for them. A lot of families here. The concession stands are open, of course, and there's all kinds of different specials going on in the arena, and these fans are really having a good time. Good to see the Silver Dancers, the Coyote out here as well.
And who isn't excited for basketball to return? We haven't actually mentioned they've got a little bit new practice uniforms on. The new Nike jerseys have been unveiled. Also at the Spurs fan shop now you can purchase new Nike gear. I have actually on one of the new Nike shirts we got yesterday.
Yes, nice.
It's a little bit of a different design, but it's pretty cool. They have a lot of really cool gear, and so I know fans are going to be really excited to see all of the new Nike gear. But how about you? You got Monday, first preseason game in Sacramento, 9 p.m. Central Time tip. I can't believe it's already here.
I'm looking forward to getting on the plane and seeing everybody tomorrow, where we can have a chance to talk for that long flight out there to Sacramento. But it's always good. Now, only 5 preseason games this year.
Yep.
And then the season, of course, is going to start earlier this year on the 18th of November as the NBA has decided to stretch it out a little bit.
And here we are starting quarter number 2 of the Silver and Black Open Scrimmage presented by General Mills. Leonard Parentes takes the ball up the court for the Black team. And he's another addition, a training camp guy. We saw him during Summer League. He played for Miami, and he had a great performance against the Spurs. So you can see that even you don't have to be a guy on the Spurs Summer League team to make it to training camp. If you put on a great performance, all the coaches have your eyes on you.
Yeah, and other teams that might need a point guard, they get to see him as well. And Parentes had a great career at Virginia. He's the all-time leader at the University of Virginia in minutes played, games played. He played 4 years there, very solid career, and a very good program there in Charlottesville, Virginia.
And right now, Brandon Paul, we talked a little bit about this guy before the scrimmage, and we're both really excited to see him take the court. He's got a lot of experience. He's 26 years old, but he's considered a rookie. This will be his first real true NBA contract. He's played summer leagues with different teams. He played with the Mavs and the Cavs this summer. He's spent time in the G League, overseas, different brief contracts, but this is it for him, and he's really excited. What do you think we can expect out of Brandon Paul?
Well, Brandon Paul, of course, is part of a backcourt that's a little bit crowded, but he's a guy that has the opportunity to get in there and maybe play that Jonathan Simmons role, kind of establish himself a little bit. And he played at a very good program at the University of Illinois. Obviously, it's a really crazy basketball state, Illinois, but he had a marvelous summer, and I think he averaged about 16 or 17 a game with the Mavs Summer League team, and that opened the eyes of the Spurs executives.
Yeah, we were watching some highlights from him, and he was knocking down some crazy threes. So bringing that shooting range to this Spurs team is obviously going to help him. The Spurs love to have shooters as well. So excited to have him as part of the team. And as Patty Mills brings the ball up the court, so happy to have Patty back on the squad. We were a little nervous there for a second, but just thrilled to have him back. He brings such a dynamic element off the bench and such a leader in the point guard position as well.
Oh, yeah, there's no question about the fact that when you look at Patty Mills, you look at the consummate team player.
Yep.
When he first got here, he wasn't playing very much, but he was the guy with the towel on the sidelines, and then he worked very, very hard to develop his game and become the kind of player that he is, and he just fits this culture perfectly.
He does. He brings that energy. It's always great to see. Here we have Brandon Paul taking it in out to Kyle Anderson. Oh, that's a nice little fake out there, picked up by Rudy Gay. I just love seeing Rudy Gay run the floor. I'm always, as he mentioned, there we go, see Patty Mills take it inside. He has that burst of energy, and I'm sure I'm taller than Patty Mills. And to see him take it in, it's always great. He's just a complete burst of energy and such a leader, especially with some of the younger guys on this team. We haven't really talked about another member of this Silver team that's on the floor right now, Derek White. 29th pick in the 2017 NBA draft out of Colorado. Played 3 years of Division II basketball, made the jump to Division I. And all of a sudden, he's an NBA prospect, and he looked really good out there in Summer League as well. What are your thoughts on Derek White?
Well, it's very interesting when you see a player that played at the Division II level move up to Division I, and it was a seamless transition for him. He played at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. Then he went to the University of Colorado at Boulder, and he played very, very well. And he looks like he's a team player, very high IQ type guy, and very humble, very sharp guy. So I think that he's going to fit right in as well.
Yeah, he's been really impressive. He grew about 5 inches from high school to college, so that always helps. But we heard from Danny Green yesterday at practice, and Danny said that Derek reminds him a lot of himself. He's comes in very good at a lot of things, but he's still working to be great at one or a few of those things. And if Danny Green is comparing you to himself, especially so early on, that's a good sign. Danny entering his 9th NBA season and had quite a bit of success. So to get that high praise from Danny Green, really impressive.
Well, Danny is a real grinder. Remember, things didn't come real easy for Danny. He had to play. He played overseas real briefly, but he played in the G League for a while, was at the end of the bench for the Cavs for a while. Even got released by the Spurs after he first came to San Antonio. But he's been marvelous. And, you get that kind of offensive rebound there from Kyle Anderson. And Kyle's got a couple of baskets now. Kyle was working very well earlier with Bryn Forbes. We talked about Bryn improving his point guard skills. He had a nice pass earlier to Kyle for a basket.
And there we go. Long three there by Derek White. Going back to Danny playing in the now G League, Kyle also spent quite a bit of time down there. Bryn Forbes, DeJounte Murray. We might see some of these guys out here in Austin as well. It's pretty incredible to see the growth of the G League now and how pretty much every team is really utilizing it for development.
I think they're up to 26 teams now, so they're very close to having a full minor league system like baseball does. Of course, there'd only be one level, but not 3 or 4 like baseball has. But I think more and more teams, and the Spurs, again, were at the head of the curve on this.
Absolutely.
Utilizing their affiliate at the then D-League, now G-League. And we've seen it pay dividends with some of these young players who get a chance to play at that level before they come up and play with the Spurs.
And during the summer, both Davis and DeJounte said it was really just an opportunity to get back on the court when they weren't getting the minutes with the San Antonio Spurs, to go to Austin, just get out there and play, learn the system, keep working on the plays. And we've seen it out on the Spurs court now, how it's just translated beautifully, especially with, most notably, I would say, DeJounte Murray and Davis last season. And of course, you see Jonathan Simmons was there, Kyle, Danny, just these players that have developed their game and continue to grow.
Absolutely. That's the second time Manu missed a pass to Rudy Gay. That time a little bit tall, but he saw it there, and that's the fun part about Manu's game. He might throw one into the second row, but the next time it's going to be right on the money, and he's exciting to watch still at the age of 40.
We have DeJounte Murray handling the ball. And LaMarcus pulling out for a jump shot. He has that ability. He's been working on that range. He said his rookie year, he thinks he took about 2 3-pointers. That wasn't a 3, but it was pretty close. And he's been working on that this summer. He said he wants to be more efficient from beyond the arc because, that's where the game is going. The bigs have to be able to play inside and outside. Him and Pau was shooting unbelievable at the end of the season from 3.
54% last year from three-point range for Pau Gasol. Of course, he didn't have as many threes to qualify for, best three-point shooter in the league. But LaMarcus shot, as I mentioned earlier, much better last year from beyond the arc than he did in his first year with the Spurs. And it just more range. Laverne, who comes off the bench, he's got range as well.
Well, that was good defense by Breida there. There we go. We see the range from Pau Gasol.
As if on cue. We're talking about the stuff, and there it goes, right?
He heard us.
Yep. DeJounte guarding Patty there. This is one of the great things that Patty Mills does, is we see there, he comes off screens so well. And he gets that release, gets that shot off very, very quickly. And because of that, he's just very, very difficult to guard. Even though, as you mentioned, he's only a 6-footer, he knows how to use those screens and create space off the screens.
Marcus Aldridge taking it inside. He's playing aggressive. Of course, it's the scrimmage. But yesterday at practice, he harped on getting back to his old self, being aggressive, wanting the ball, taking it inside. And that's what the Spurs team needs from him, because he's got to be one of those go-to scorers throughout the season. Yeah,
I think that we might see him more in post-up situations. Of course, he's got the great turnaround jumper from the baseline. You mentioned the fact that he's got range, but he's got an inside-out game that they can utilize. And he said at Media Day that him and Pau have really built this relationship on the court where they kind of know where they are at all times. And that's going to be so important for this team, because I expect to see a rotation with Pau and LaMarcus quite often. Yeah, they'll probably start, I would think. And we mentioned the flexibility that a guy like Rudy Gay brings, because he can play the small forward or the 4. Davis Bertans can play a couple of different positions. So they've got some guys who can play multiple positions, and therefore, because of that, they've got some flexibility. Here we have Bryn Forbes attacking the rim. Just a beautiful move by Bryn. I think his confidence grew tremendously after that Summer League performance. He was second team in Vegas, and he just had an unbelievable showing. People were really taking notice of his game. Spurs have a lot of depth at the guard position. A lot of depth at the guard position. Davis is not going to hesitate. I like that. There were some times last year where he was open and maybe just hesitated a little bit, and they really encouraged him. Look, you're a great shooter. Go ahead and shoot. Yeah, this is year 2, and he's ready to go. Joffrey Liberan taking the ball up the court right now. Handoff to Manu Ginobili. Oh, and what a beautiful find inside by Joffrey to Davis Bertans. That's that connection we talked about. They played for 2 years together in Serbia, and they're finding each other just like the old days. Part of the global gang, right? Laverne to Bertans, France to Latvia. I'm going to let Publio Castro from Spanish Radio
All right, let's bring it in. Thank you, Bill, so much. And now we're going to bring in Mr. Paul Castro. How are you doing today, sir?
Good to see everyone today.
Good. Can't believe we're already back.
I know. I love it.
Hard to believe.
I think the summers go by faster and faster. Like right now. See? Quarter's over. Come on.
And we wrap up the second quarter here with the score tied. Silver with 38, Black also with 38. Paul, how was your summer?
Well, so far so good. We're not back to work officially, but the summer was fantastic. I got to do some traveling. I went to my hometown in Mexico. I was, fantastic.
Amazing. And you, for fans out there, you're not broadcasting first preseason game. You'll be back for the first home preseason game. Is that correct?
I do the home preseason, home only, and after that, we do all the
games.
Right.
Hard to believe we're back here already. It seems like just last week we were wrapping up the Western Conference Finals, but here we are again, a new season. What are you most looking forward to out of this team this season?
You know what? Every year I like to see the new guys, of course, and I like how the chemistry builds because it's not automatic. It's not overnight. So I like that. I like to get to know the new guys, get to know their style of play, how Pop is going to use them. But more than anything, I like how the chemistry builds up.
Absolutely, and I think we're starting to see it out there on the court already with some of these new guys. Joffrey Laverne, Derek White, the rookie, Brandon Paul, and of course Rudy Gay. So a lot of new faces, but everyone that I've talked to when it comes to practice, they said that these guys are fitting in really well. And I feel like it's not that hard to fit into this Spurs system. If you buy into it, you can find a way to fit in.
Well, not only that, I think that they understand that when you come here, you have to be part of a team, of a system. You have to fit in with Coach Pop.
Absolutely.
They know that. If they don't want to be a part of that, they shouldn't be here because it's so hard.
Right.
I mean, the Spurs system is very, very complicated. It takes a little while to understand. Some guys spend a year or maybe 2 years understanding the system, getting to know Pop and everything else. But once you break through that, they can be here for a very long time.
And how excited are you to have Manu Ginobili back?
Very, very, very.
Great to see him. He got a rousing applause right when he walked out on the court. Fans are just so excited to have him back. We're so excited to have him back. What does he bring to this team?
Everything.
Everything.
Because you got to figure, a guy like him has not only been playing his whole life, per se, in professionally, I think he started like 15 or 16 years old. So he knows a lot about the world, a lot about the system, coaches, players, everything. So everything he knows, he brought to the table to the Spurs. And I remember when he first got started, Pop drove him crazy.
Yeah.
Because he would tell him to do one thing, and Manu would do something else, throw a crazy pass, and he sees things on the court that the coach can't see from the sideline. So that would drive Coach Pop crazy. But Manu brings a whole bunch of everything to this team that all the young guys, old guys, and including the coaches need.
It's interesting because I talked to quite a few of the guys at Media Day and asked them, what were their initial reactions when they found out Manu was coming back. And LaMarcus told me he knew for sure he was coming back. And Danny said he was shocked that he was coming back. So you had all his teammates who didn't really know what was going to happen. And it sounded like from Manu during that press conference, he didn't really know what his decision was going to be as well.
Yeah.
So obviously everyone really excited to have him back on the court. DeJounte actually told me that he plays such a big role for the new guys, for the guys that have been here forever, for the coaches. As you mentioned, he's just a leader in so many different ways.
Exactly. And someone asked me about him the other day, and I told him that Manu is the bridge from the past to the future. A lot of these guys need his guidance, to understand what's going to happen to them. It won't be easy.
And fans will definitely be able to see Manu Ginobili in the lineup for Spurs opening night. Hard to believe, coming up so soon. Wednesday, October 18th, Spurs tip off the 2017-2018 season against the Minnesota Timberwolves. That'll be at 8:30 p.m. on Ken's 5. Great seats remain. Be sure to head on over to Spurs.com or the official Spurs app to purchase seats. We're getting ready to start the second half of this Silver and Black Open Scrimmage presented by General Mills here at the AT&T Center. We got a little bit of a different mix-up of lineups right now. Obviously, Tony Parker not playing today. Kawhi Leonard as well not playing today. But it's great to see these guys blending in together, getting runs in, and seeing potential lineups out there.
Oh, exactly. And I think that those guys shouldn't play anyway. They're going to get their time. They're getting a lot of playing time. But what I like is the fans to get a glimpse of the Spurs this year. Sometimes you can't make it to a game for whatever reason, but there's a lot. It's a good turnout for being an early game, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I think what excites fans, of course, is this event is completely free. Admission is free. Parking is free. I was here at about 8:45. I was telling Bill, and the line was wrapping around already. It's crazy. Fans just are so excited for the season to start, as are we. Just an incredible event here today. And we've seen a little bit here. We saw in the replay, Joffrey Laverne taking the ball inside. He's one of the new faces on this Spurs team this season. He spent last year with the Bulls, coming over from France. What are your expectations for Joffrey heading into this season?
Well, he's going to have to produce right away. He's going to have to help us right away because it's important that new guys like him get the minutes, get the experience, because it's going to be a long season. Even though the season's a little different this year, guys like him are going to be critical, especially on the road where other guys maybe are too tired or a little injured. He has to be the key guy. And not only that, I mean, he's been around for a few years. So he brings that experience. Yes, he's a foreigner, and I think he brings that toughness too, like Manu did. So once we get to see him a little more, because over the last 3 years, we really haven't seen a lot of him.
Right, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Spurs use this lineup, because we talked to LaMarcus at practice yesterday, and he's told us that he's looking to expand his game beyond the three-point line because he knows that center position is kind of disappearing. They're going to the small ball play. So the Spurs have Pau Gasol and LaMarcus Aldridge at 6'11" and 7 feet. But they have guys like Joffrey Laverne, Davis Bertans, Rudy Gay, who are at this small forward position that can take the ball inside and out and really spread the floor for this team this season.
And that's very key for Coach Pop, because Coach Pop has a great mind on how to mix everything. Doesn't matter if the opposite team is playing small ball or big ball or in between. Pop can find the right kind of squad to be out there and play against them.
Absolutely.
And I'm amazed how Pop can think so fast on the fly. See who's going to come in. He's already thinking 2 steps ahead.
It's really incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. And that was Patty Mills right there taking the ball inside.
I'm glad he's back, too.
Well, I was just going to say, how excited are you to see Patty? We were looking forward to having him back, and he brings such an important presence, especially early on with Tony still rehabbing his quad injury. How important is Patty from a point guard leadership standpoint, especially with DeJounte Murray only entering his 2nd season?
Well, he's going to be a mentor type deal, just like Tony for DeJounte. Those 2 guys are going to be his teacher, per se.
Right.
I think Patty is always going to be talking on the bench. It doesn't matter if Patty starts or not, which I don't know, of course, but I think Patty is going to be in his ear all the time, and he has to, because Patty knows so much. He's been around for so long. He's an international player. He can give him so many extra little tips, and he knows all the guys in the league. Look, this guy likes to do this guy. He goes to his left. He doesn't do that. All that kind of stuff. When you're on the bench, you're watching the game, but you're also listening to your teammates.
And it's hard to find a guy that's more positive than Patty Mills. That guy is always – he's got the towel going.
Yes.
He is bringing the energy at all times. He always is raising his teammates up, and it's so important to have a guy like that on your team. Kyle Anderson, what a strong take. He's been continuing to work on his game this season. How do you think Kyle fits into the lineup this year?
Well, he's here for a reason. I think Pop still sees something special in him, and he really helped us in the playoffs last year, if you remember. He's going to be one of those guys that is going to give you one night maybe just defense, another night maybe 6 or 8 points. It doesn't take a lot for him to contribute. Whatever he gives on the court is going to be a positive. But he's here because Pop sees something that I think he's going to see more in the future of.
And Kyle has such a tall stature, but he grew up playing the point guard position. He talked to Bill Land during media day, and Bill asked him, what position would you prefer to play out on the court? And he said point guard, which is so interesting. And it's great to have guys like that who, at I think he's 6'9", maybe he can float into a point guard position if needed. It's just incredible.
Why not?
Exactly.
Why not? Boris played point guard for a couple of games, right? Yeah.
You got to have guys that can play different positions on the floor. And as I mentioned, the game is going to a small ball kind of way of play. So to have guys be able to handle the ball at 6'9" is so crucial.
Yeah, and a lot of things too. Depends how you grew up, where you grew up, who you played against. I mean, a lot of guys grew up playing on the streets all the time against bigger, tougher guys or against their bigger brothers. That made you tougher. So I think a lot of the Spurs players, not only the national guys but the international guys, have seen a lot of tough play.
Absolutely.
And yes, from a kid to this point in their career, their lives, they remember that. They remember what you have to do to play on the team.
And Kyle grew up in New Jersey, and this summer he spent a lot of time with Danny Green actually playing in some pickup leagues with guys like Hoodie Mello, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, a bunch of those guys. So he was working on his game with some of the best players in the NBA.
I think that's still good, because once in a while I think you can get too comfortable playing just on one court against just certain people. But if you mix it up like that, you'll remember certain things. Maybe you'll learn something new. By talking or playing against someone, they'll give you some good information just by watching and getting information. But I think it's a great idea.
Absolutely. And Rudy Gay right now at the free throw line, he had a strong take against Kyle Anderson down there. He's coming off that torn Achilles injury, but he said he's ready to go. He's feeling good. What do you expect to see out of Rudy Gay this season? You
know what? I've been watching Rudy's his whole career, and I was unfortunate about the Achilles tendon last year, but that injury isn't like it used to be in the past. You can fix it. You can come back from it. And I'm expecting him just to be a big-time contributor. We need points. He can score. He can rebound. He can defend. He has a lot of good knowledge. He's one of those guys who's been around also because he's for the first place, he's good.
Yes.
But in second place, he knows basketball.
Right.
There's a lot of players that are good at playing basketball, but they can't read and understand basketball and what's going on. He's one of those guys that can.
And I talked to him a couple weeks ago. We had our introduction interview with him, and he said this season he's just looking to get back to being one of the top 10 guys when it comes to small forward position, and he wants to break the stigma, as you mentioned, with that injury. You said it's not the same coming back from that. People can come back from that, but for fans watching, you know,
they won't even tell.
You see the injury, though, and you think, oh, gosh, is he going to be able to get back to full strength? And he said he wants to break that stigma because he wants to show that he's going to be better than ever now.
Yeah, it's like Tony coming back, too. A lot of people didn't expect him to come back from that injury, but, you know, he's going to come back and he's going to test it out. And even if he's at 99%, you know, that's good enough for him to be playing a good game. But I think Rudy Gay is going to be a big-time contributor for us because we need him.
We need him. And you just mentioned Tony Parker. He's not playing today, but he was just out on the court at the beginning of the game addressing the fans. He says he's way ahead of schedule, which obviously Spurs fans are so excited to hear. You know, he's still going to rehab for probably the next 2 months, but he says he wants to come back stronger than ever. Do you think Tony Parker can come back stronger than ever?
You know what, Kaylee? I learned a long time ago not to doubt a Spurs player because most of those guys will do what they say. You know, I've been wrong a lot. This is my 24th season. I'm going to start my 24th season. So I've seen a lot of good stuff. I've seen a lot of, you know, things happen. But one thing I've always noticed that if you're a Spur, you always come back strong. You're a strong player under the system, under Coach Pop, under your teammates. It just makes you a different kind of player.
Right.
You know, so I believe it. I believe that Tony's going to be back, and he's going to do his part like always, and we'll go from there.
And while Tony is still in the rehab process, we expect to see quite a bit more from DeJounte Murray entering his second season. He's worked really hard in the offseason. For fans that pay attention to him on social media, he seems like he's in the gym every day, every night. What do you expect to see out of DeJounte Murray this season? Well,
first of all, I like the fact that he's watching what Kawhi is doing. Kawhi is a gym rat. He loves to get better every year, and he's gotten better every year. So I think by having Kawhi next to him, and I don't know if Kawhi told him this or not, but he goes, if you want to be great, you have to work out every day. Mm-hmm. You have to do something every day to stay ahead of the game. So I think now by DeJounte working out so hard and understanding and playing along with Kawhi, it's going to be a big plus. A lot of players in the offseason, they don't see each other.
Right.
You know, they don't even, maybe they'll text once in a while, but they don't play against each other, they don't practice. But in our case, they can go to the gym anytime they want.
Absolutely.
They can be there 24 hours a day if they wanted to. So that's proving to me that DeJounte is serious about his position. He knows that Tony's going to be out for a while. He has to fill in those shoes. It might not fit him at the beginning, but sooner or later, he's going to do a great job coming in for Tony.
I think we've seen the maturity out of him so much so far this season as well. Just the jump he made from year one to year two when it comes to even interviews. He knows that his role is so different this season, and coming in, he's really worked on pretty much all aspects of his game, his life, the way he approaches things.
And don't forget the playoffs. When he was thrown into the playoffs when Tony couldn't play, he did a great job.
We got 1 minute left here in the third quarter with Black leading Silver 51-48. Silver's about to take out the ball. Darren Hilliard, one of the guys, one of the two-way players that the Spurs added to the team this season, along with Matt Costello.
Yes.
It's an interesting concept and shows really how the Spurs utilize the G League and the development. What have you seen, you know, being here in your 24 seasons with the Spurs utilizing that G League?
Well, all that stuff didn't start happening until about a few years ago, but I like the fact that the Spurs were sending guys back and forth because they needed to, if they weren't playing enough, they had to do something, right? So I think the Spurs were the ones pretty much that made the NBA go to two guys coming out of there because you need that.
Yeah.
It's your farm, they're your guys, you should be able to use it whenever you want. So by utilizing the Austin Spurs now like they have been, it's been a big plus for us because those guys are ready, they know the game, they know the plays, and they see each other all the time.
It's really great, and the Spurs, I think, have done it just as good as any team out there. We've seen such tremendous growth out of their players. As we get ready to wrap up quarter number 3, Black leads Silver 51-48. Paul Castro, thank you so much for joining us.
We'll be seeing you.
We will.
And here's Andrew Monaco.
Oh, goodness. My partner is coming, but before that, Rampage Hockey is back at the AT&T Center. Opening night is Saturday, October 7th at 7 p.m. First 5,000 fans will receive a free magnet schedule. Tickets start at just $12. Visit sarampage.com to purchase yours. Oh, gosh, who am I sitting next to right now?
Hello, partner.
Oh, man. It's been a few weeks, but I'm back with Mr. Andrew Monaco. Sir, how are you?
I'm great, my friend. How are
good
you?
To see you.
It is wonderful to be alongside.
It feels like it's been a while.
It has been, and then we're going to get sick of one
but
another.
We're going to be together all the time again, and it's going to be awesome.
It is. It is. I'm really looking forward to this season, and I love the changes on Fox and on Ken's, and the changes being that we've added Kaylee to our
crew. I am so excited to have you on board. You know, we've talked about players and 1 year and then into their second year. How about you? Is it more comfortable for you a little bit now? Because you hit this thing running last year at this time.
This was one of my first few days, actually, last year, which is pretty crazy. I was still getting used to all of the guys on the court. And now I feel like I can talk about everyone, which is pretty funny. But how about this event today? We got the Silver Dancers out on the court.
I love it.
The atmosphere in here, just incredible. The fans, I was here about 8:45 this morning, and the lines were crazy. People are charging at the lower bowl. It's just really an incredible time.
It's so much fun to see them, obviously, you know, recognizing fans that you see game in and game out. But I also like the excitement, bringing the family, and I've been impressed as everybody's walking around asking one another, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? Where'd you... Experiencing the AT&T Center,
right.
And just that camaraderie of meeting up with friends, but almost family, because you come to all these Spurs games and getting back together like this. But there are some people, this is their event. This is where they get in. Maybe they're not in the lower bowl. Maybe they want to be in the lower bowl. They get that opportunity. I think it's a wonderful way to open up the season.
And just an incredible event from, as you mentioned, it's accessible to everybody around here. Completely free. Admission is free. Parking is free. Dollar drink. Just a great way to celebrate. Get that first look at this 2017-2018 team. And we've seen quite a few new guys out here on the floor. We see Rudy Gay, Joffrey Laverne, Brandon Paul, Derek White, of course. What are your initial impressions of some of these new guys?
You know, watching Rudy Gay on other teams and now getting to see him in silver and black is extremely exciting. I've always called Rudy Gay that professional scorer. Whether it was in Toronto, whether it was in Sacramento, you could watch him. When I say score at will, there's a connection between the cerebral part of Rudy Gay's game and the athletic and the skill part. But to put him in the silver and black, now I think it's something, can you unleash him in your starting five on certain nights? But I've always felt the separator, Kaylee, is the Spurs bench and their depth and their reserves. And now just imagine if you have Rudy Gay with Patty Mills and Manu Ginobili and Davis Bertans. I've just named four that could be coming off the bench, or Joffrey Laverne. Now, what does the other team have to do to try to keep up? So we've seen the starting five may get off to a slow start and the bench comes in. Now you've added Rudy Gay to that. I think it becomes really, and just, you prize a professional like Rudy Gay, and it's not all about scoring. I loved what he said, on training camp. What do I have to do here? I think he understands that. And any free agent, I think, has to understand the team that you're coming into. It's one thing to say, if he thinks he's coming in here to score 34 a game, not going to happen. You know what I mean? But it's that all-around game. And it's always interesting. I guess you get such a perspective as you're, as a Spurs coach and in the front office of watching people around the league. And here's an opportunity to bring in a Rudy Gay. But what has a Derek White done while he's been in college to impress the Spurs? A Brandon Paul. Is this another one of those Spurs finds? And there's so much that, the personality has to fit. Obviously, the playing ability has to fit. But this organization does a wonderful job of finding players like this.
And that's interesting. So far today, we've Bill and I were talking about earlier on this game, that it looks like the starting lineups for these teams resemble maybe the starting five and the five off the bench, minus Kawhi obviously not playing today. Tony still out with his injury. We have Kyle subbed in. And then, as you mentioned, Patty, Manu, Rudy, Davis, Joffrey. That could be it. What a power group off the bench. And that's kind of like maybe the new and improved Juice Crew for the season.
Yeah, and it I think fans may have been, why didn't the Spurs do more? Well, why? That was the whole thing. I'm part of that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It ain't been broke.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially when you get to the Final Four in the NBA, to use the college analogy. And is it tweaks? It's not like, the window is closed, this and that. The other thing that I always look forward to season is, Davis Bertans and that second year. Bryn Forbes now in the second year. And what a first year it was. Bryn using the I-35 going up to Austin to play in the G League. The understanding. what a year for DeJounte. Over from the very beginning of last year to where he was at the end of last year, but knowing his work ethic and what he was doing in the summer to see that pay off. I think that's the exciting part. Is I think fans say, okay, the snapshot of last year, but players grow in the offseason. And if they don't grow, as you know, they're not going to be in this league long.
Right.
And I think that's what makes it special. That's why guys take off, is more of the understanding, but also the work ethic of being around Kawhi, Manu, Tony, players like that, Danny Green. You're seeing it. You're playing against them every day, but you're seeing what's it like. I remember Becky Hammond told me last year, DeJounte, what they were so excited about is he's going to be surrounded by 14 men.
Right.
19 years old last year, 20 now, but he's surrounded. And then she said, and those men are professional and going to teach him the right way. That's the exciting part in the development as we look at players. It doesn't happen overnight. There's an awful lot of work, but I also think it's because who they're surrounded with.
And you talk about that development. We've seen quite a bit of it with the G League. We worked on a number of G League broadcasts for Austin last season, and a lot of the guys on the floor right now have that G League experience. We see Bryn Forbes, Kyle Anderson, who do we have out here? Brandon Paul, Davis Bertans, and then we see some of these young guys out there who might see time there as well.
Right.
And then also on the court right now, Darren Hilliard and Matt Costello, the two-way players for the Spurs this season, so they can spend up to 45 days on the San Antonio Spurs, but will be spending time in Austin. What does that two-way player add to a team?
Combination of the flexibility, but because now Blake Ahern as the new head coach in Austin, when you teach the same things in Austin, and you and I got to learn from Ken McDonald in the last 4 years there, that these are the expectations here in Austin are the same in San Antonio. This is not I think this is the biggest change in the G League. It's not a demotion. I understand that the NBA wants to get to a 30 for 30, the full minor league. But at times when you look at Major League Baseball, sometimes you hear it as a demotion. That's not it. Do you need playing time? And now you can go get the 30. What was Bryn getting? 35 minutes a game. As point guard. He wasn't a point guard at Michigan State, learning those skills, learning defensive responsibility. I think to be able to do that and give you the flexibility now to stretch the roster a little bit. I know that we have stretched out the season a little bit in the NBA, but it's still a grind. But I just think it's the learning opportunity and to learn on this professional level that no matter if it says San Antonio Spurs or Austin Spurs, the same concepts, the same principles, the same responsibilities, whether you're on the floor in Austin or whether you're on the floor here in San Antonio.
And I think that's something that these Spurs players really do appreciate because they've seen so many players before them go to Austin, work on their game, continue to develop, and have this tremendous success at the NBA level. And it's something that you don't always see. I think one of the guys that we've seen in the past couple months just incredible development is Bryn Forbes.
Right.
He had one of the most impressive summer leagues I've seen in a while. He made second team in Vegas, and he just put on an absolute show. You can see out on the court now, he even has a confidence out here with these guys, and he's worked so much on his ball handling because he's only 6 feet tall.
Right.
So at Michigan State, he was that two guard, but in the NBA, he's not a two guard.
No, and then that's the big change. Do you want to stay in the NBA, and what do you have to do? And he's accepted that. I think more than anything else, though, Kaylee, as you and I experienced, Bryn in Austin was the same as Bryn in San Antonio. It's that single-minded focus of how do I get better to earn the playing time and even earn the playing time in Austin. I'm not here just to get the time. I need to do what I have to do. I'll go back to a story. Brad Jones, coach in Austin, and Corey Joseph was sent up to Austin to play. And I asked Brad how it went. He said, which half, first half or second half? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said the first half, as Patty with the steal, he said, Corey didn't understand the speed. He thought he was just going to come here. Second half, everything changed. And from that moment on, but he needed that, I don't want to say wake-up call, but whatever the expectation was, that changed. Ray McCallum, first half, second half, didn't shoot it well. At halftime, Ken McDonald told me this. He goes in and he asked, do you have video of my shots in the first half? Well, the rest of the Austin Spurs then say, wait, we can do this? And so they gather around Ray. What are you looking at? Oh, I can do this too. So, I mean, those are two guys who aren't here any longer, but Bryn is the same thing. What can I do after games, still working out? What can I do to be a professional? And that's the kind of stuff that rubs off. That's the kind of stuff of if you played in San Antonio when you saw that Tim Duncan was the last guy off the floor. You never want to be the last guy in and the first guy off the floor. Those are the simple things. And you don't just put in time. You don't just show up and think you're going to get better. It's not an osmosis thing. And I think that's what makes it so special. And to have the same responsibilities, the same expectations from your NBA team and your G League team, I think are important. And I think Spurs fans are embracing that also, understanding that, I can't wait to see who the Spurs are who's coming from Austin, and that becomes, our new favorite or a new fan for us to cheer.
And right now with the ball, Manu Ginobili, I mean, people went crazy when he emerged from the locker room.
Yeah.
How glad are you to see Manu back on the floor?
I wasn't ready for him to walk away.
No.
I was not.
Was anyone? I don't think so.
No. I've always said he's almost like a son here in San Antonio. I think this is a town that thinks that he is family. He's our son, and there's that pride. There's always been, I'll use the word warm. I think there's a warmer reception for Manu because he's just been embraced here, and he's embraced them right back, the fans. No, when he came on and to hear this entire crowd. And I love the way he acknowledges as well, as he's always done, as you've seen, whether it's here or in another building, constantly signing autographs. But I think he's embraced this. I think there is that competitor in him. I think he loves being a teammate. I think he loves playing with his teammates, and that was the decision to bring him back. But no, I'm with you. I had to stop what I was doing when he came out of the tunnel and onto the floor because of such the reception.
It's incredible to see. Just so good to have the guys back here at the AT&T Center. I mean, it feels like last week we were wrapping up the Western Conference Final.
It does.
How did this happen so quickly?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. There have been, you have to go back for me to, 89, the end of the first Orlando Magic season, and they still seem to run together. But it's wonderful to be back together.
Well, after this final buzzer, ring Silver wins 63-58. Joffrey Laverne led the Silver team with 14. Danny Green with 12. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us on Facebook Live today. Can't believe basketball season's back, but so excited that it is. I'm with Andrew Monaco. You'll be seeing a bunch of us this season on Fox Sports Southwest. First preseason game on Monday in Sacramento, 9 p.m. Let's tune into WOAI with Bill Schoening. The team will be back on Friday, October 6th against Sacramento once again for the first preseason game of the season. They've got 5. And then home opener on Wednesday, October 18th, 8:30 p.m. against the Minnesota Timberwolves on Penn's 5. Be sure to join us throughout the season. Keep it locked in to the Spurs social platforms, at Spurs on Twitter, on Instagram, and of course on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us for our annual 2017 Silver and Black Open Scrimmage presented by General Mills. I'm Kaylee Griffin, and I'll be seeing you soon.